I just want to say, because we're going to talk about Astralis next, as if we needed a more perfect segue for the fact that, listen, I know it sounds mad because it was only 3 months ago they were the best team in the world. But dude, I can't lie. I know obviously people expect me to say this, but I think Astralis is in trouble, mate. And the reason why that map is a perfect example is because you remember when everyone was like, yay, we didn't get 16-0'd. Dude, go back in time. You remember in I think it was the end of 2018 when Astralis was unbeatable and they had that game against Nip on Mirage and they 15-0'd them, then Forest won the pistol or whatever, and everyone was like, haha, we didn't get 16-0'd. And I was like, brother, if bragging about not losing 16-0 and just losing 16-1 or 16-2's the score, we got bigger problems. I feel having trouble at home. Dude, I know it sounds like haterism because the problem is as well, this is bizarre. I actually still think Device is straight fire. I think some elements of the team are still good, but I also do feel bearing in mind, nobody keeps the roster together as long as they do. Nobody comes back 2-3 times to the top. Where are you seeing weaknesses, Mozo? Where are the issues here?
I think individually they're all still really, really good and really great. I think, if anything, at the time, it feels like they're having a little bit of a crisis of confidence and trust within the team as a whole. I still watch all of them play really good Counter-Strike. I still watch all of them do good stuff. And then I think the most uncharacteristic thing that I saw this event was watching the Spirit versus Astralis demos. And if you go back and watch the Inferno match, there's a stretch of 4 or 5 rounds where Device just misses the easiest shots that you see him hit 10 out of 10 times. And I think you see, and I when you have a player like that missing kind of those sorts of sitters over and over again in a match, for me, my brain always goes to, I don't think it's an individual problem. I think there's some level of miscomfort within the team that they don't have full confidence in what their teammates are going to be doing. They don't have full trust that their teammates are going to have their back. That there's something going on within the unit that makes them individually get thrown a little bit off their game, and that's what I think Astralis is struggling through. And I honestly, I don't even know if I consider it to be that big of a deal. I think more than anything at the moment, I feel like this is just a natural ebb and flow of being a professional roster. And it's hard once you hit that down point within a team to get to go back up to the good times, because it's just hard. It's usually a mental game, so it's hard to get everyone back on the same page. And Astralis has already done it a few times. The reasons we don't see teams last and lineups last as long as Astralis is because normally at this point they've hit a downturn that they couldn't get out of, and that's where the roster change comes in.
Yes, of course.
They haven't had to fucking do that yet, and I don't know if they're going to. I think they're going to still try and get this one out with the roster, but I think at the moment it's just kind of an internal crisis of the team. But I don't know. More than anything, honest to God, I didn't have any doubt that they would be able to find a better form of Astralis going into the playoffs at Katowice. They still got that ass beat by VP, same as us. And I haven't lost any confidence that coming into the next event that they're not going to be one of the contenders to win it. So I mean, I don't know if I really think they're in crisis mode just yet. But it seems to me to be a team issue more than any kind of individual issue.
I think it's all external stuff going on right now. And I know you're going to love this, Duncan, right? But the whole Bobski thing is just outrageous, right? You look at it and from a player point of view, I can only imagine, because they don't really tell us, and that's the cool thing about Astralis, right? They're so happy to make press releases when they integrate a new player, or when they sign up a 7th player from the youngster team to make all the PR go towards that, but they don't really tell us how they're trying to integrate Bobski. Are they pracking with him? Are they, maybe Jason can even chime in. I don't know if you've been pracking against Astralis with Bobski on the lineup outside of Nuke, right? But this whole thing of trying to maintain a happy family picture outside to the outside world when you know that internally things are not going the way you want to is making me throw up, right? That's the one thing I dislike about Astralis. There's a lot of good stuff going in there, and I think, Duncan, sometimes you may be a little bit too rough on them, right, in the edges, but I agree with this one. It's so goddamn annoying that you constantly have to portray your family as one big happy family when you know that, like all other families, shit is going on within the family, right? That's just how it goes. Integrating Bobski, leaving or getting Sipnix out of the roster, especially in the beginning when Sipnix was not performing well, because he just came off a break of 6 months. Of course, he was not up to date with the game, and all of a sudden you now don't want him to play Nuke anymore. You can imagine what kind of trust issues that would give Sipnix for the future being. Then you integrate Sipnix back into Nuke because you realize that Bobski is not working on Nuke, and all of a sudden you have a team where I think Astralis, for such a long period, they thrived so well, knowing that there were those 5 guys. And even if Astralis, sometimes as an organization would push them in a certain direction, they would still be together as this 5 unit. They knew that they were stronger than basically everything else around them. I don't think that's the case anymore. I think that whole, unit within Astralis right now have been poked a little bit too much too, trying to integrate Bobsky. S-Attack coming in, doing well. Was that a mistake letting him go? Should they have sold him to Cloud9? Should they have kept him? Yada, yada, yada. There's just so much stuff going on an organizational point of view that I think that interferes with the players. So when Jason is saying as he is with Device is not a bad player. He's not missing 5 shots in a row that he's supposed to hit unless something is going on. I don't know, but that's just my assumption right here, that right now the core ingredients of what made Astralis so good in terms of individual brilliance, in terms of them being so gelled well together, it's just slowly but surely falling apart for my liking. So I think they're entering a crisis. I don't think we've seen the worst from Astralis just yet. I think it's going to get worse.
I even said this on By the Numbers, but I actually give them mad props that they were able to still win all those tournaments while fucking around with the whole Bobsky swapping in and then coming and even they used to win Nuke half the time. To actually do that, listen, I think it's ridiculous you do it, because either you believe in him and it's a real player, or you're just doing it look, we do play him, but sort of only a bit. The reason why I find that whack though is, listen, it's sick that you made it work, but I do like the way as soon as they lost that fucking global finals and then got banged out of Blast, they were even before that, just after they lost the global finals, they were look, Bobs, get the fuck out. We're trying to play seriously now, mate. Look, we can't be fucking around with you every other week, mate. You just get on the bench. It's guys, can I play? Because I have to say, Moses, I do think there's a player in this team who is massively underperforming. And it's my boy Magisk. And the reason why that alarms me is purely as a historian, and this is why. Because Magisk has been in 2 different teams where he was straight fire and then he falls off and he never recovered. He was in North. Everyone goes, no, that's wrong. He was amazing in North, and then MSL kicked him. MSL kicked him about fucking 5 months after he was amazing. He'd fallen off the map. Now you can claim he swapped his spots or whatever. Listen, you don't swap the spots of the best player in your fucking team if there's not an issue. Then he went to that Optic team. Oh, you like to all pretend that didn't happen, don't you? You like to all pretend he came straight from fucking dropping 37 on VP. The next day he joined Astralis. There's a reason he wasn't the number 1 option. He was a mad gamble when he was in Optic. In that Optic team, that was a complete joke team, but they were all decent players, and he just looked good. That was it. So I have to say, when you consider he played very, very good for many years in Astralis, and then this is what kills me, is the other trend that I've noticed that he plays into is the star player who becomes the IGL. Tell you what, if he really was IGLing, then winning the EPL, and then winning those amazing job. I could never even have guessed sometimes it wasn't Glaive. The problem with that is, though, it has to change your game, and there's very few players came back because the way your brain now thinks of a game and what you're doing and how... It just affects you. That's the reason why the players who do that almost never become the best again individually. It's just very, very rare. So I'm not saying they have to kick him. That's probably going too far. I'd still stick it out, and especially if you think lands are coming, I'd obviously wait until there's lands. But I'm alarmed by it for sure, because that guy used to just be the sleeper carrier of that team half the time. Every time they didn't have a great game for someone else, he just fucking banged them out. So I don't think you can miss what he had.
Yeah, that's fair. And I know he had a rough Katowice. He's actually had a pretty rough start to all of 2021, which caught me off guard a little bit. But yeah, I'm with you. I don't think you can touch him just yet. I think you obviously give him some time to get back into it, but you certainly keep an eye on the situation. I don't know. It's a weird scenario with Bobsky as well. Didn't they just announce? Wasn't there that they were going to try the 6-man roster a different way? Didn't he give some interview on HLTV when he was?
Bobsky wasn't it? Bobsky said it, but even then he didn't give the exact way. So it's come.
Yeah, he said it's going to start from. I just opened it here. We had to rethink the whole idea of a 6-man roster, and we tried to come up with something different. But I won't really just play one map. I can now play multiple maps. And from Pro League on, we're going to see me coming in to do some work.
Okay.
So starting in Pro League, and I think this says it was more because of the Valve ruling that they wouldn't allow subs mid series.
I do know that Bobsky has been played by Astralis a lot on the map DE Sieved. DE Sieved, you know that?
That was good. You did. What was the other one you did? DE Motivated. That one.
Yeah, there you go.
That
wasn't bad. That wasn't bad. Whatever. Listen, the old jokes work the best. They don't have to be good.
It's weird, and actually, I mean, I've even just entertained the thoughts of a 6-man roster as a coach in my own head at different times, just to try and think of how it could possibly work. And I can't think of a good way to do it. I honestly can't think of a good way at the moment to make a 6-man rotation work. I don't even know the closest team we've seen come to making it work is the Vitality roster.
Yes.
And that's obviously kind of, driven off a cliff of its own as well at the moment going into Katowice.
Sure.
So they had a really poor event. So, or compared to their standards. So, the 6-man, this idea of having 6 men that you can rotate in is tough. And it's, I don't know if there's a good way. I think even Navi kind of struggles with it in some ways, bringing Bit in for Flamey on certain maps. So, I don't know. I don't think any team has figured it out just yet.
Do they not have that saying? Like, obviously, we have idioms in English now. I don't know if they're all, like, in other languages or whatever, Like, I mean, I've looked up, like, some fucking proverbs, like, Polish or whatever. Some of those are fucking mental, mate. Like, you wouldn't even know what they meant. But what about, like, do you have in Danish something equivalent, Pimp, to the quote where it's like, the concept is called the exception that proves the rule. It's the idea that if something generally doesn't happen and then one thing it happens, if anything, that shows that it doesn't happen the rest of the time because it's so bizarre. Because to me, Vitality actually shows that a 6-man roster doesn't work because they're the only one that can make it work, and in a very, very weird way under the most like bizarre circumstances ever. Like, I agree. I think Na'Vi just does it because they know that their lineup isn't good enough. Give Flamey a game off. And I don't think Bit's that good, but I don't blame him. I mean, I think he's underqualified to be on this team. So what do you think, Pim? Is it actually, do you believe in the concept of the 6-man roster? Are you warming up to it?
No, not at all. I had the discussion with Matthew as well on Blast, and he thinks it's the way to go, right? And I think he's deceived by Vitality's success as well. I tend to do agree with you though on this. There's that, like, it's a one team, like it's one team making it work, and I don't really buy the argument that it's the rule that whatever you call it.
The exception that proves the rule.
Prove the exception. Yeah, I don't really buy into that because I haven't seen any team done it. I haven't seen Astralis. They talked about doing it for so long, but they never did it fully, right? Vitality is the only team who's ever tested the concept. They're the only team who's ever done it fully. So you can argue that there's 100% success rate of teams doing it full time, or 100% success rate of teams actually pulling it off. So I can definitely buy into why Matthew and why James, for that matter as well, we had the discussion at Blast, believes that's to be the case. But I don't think as a player, from a player perspective, as Jason said, if you're a coach thinking about it, the amount of obstacles you will face trying to implement a 6-man roster, not even taking into account that Valve hate the idea, that they want to do everything they can.
Yeah, that's the big one too. They can just end the entire dream, even if you find a way to make it work. They can be like,
your job is jeopardy, right? As a coach, you got to feel that a couple of weeks ago. And even excluding that, I'm having a hard time seeing how it on a consistent basis should work out for the future.
By the way, keep going.
Yeah, no, just as a player, the best example I can give, and my argument is that if you're Shocks, for an example, in Vitality, and one thing is doing it online where the tournaments just have less of a pedigree, you don't really care that much, But if you're Shocks and you're traveling to Beijing to play the major in Beijing, and you are all of a sudden getting told in the best of 3 final that you're not playing map 2 and map 3, how do you take that if you're Shocks? Your ego, is that going to stand it? If you're Shocks, you want to be involved in the game, but no longer are you going to be so. If you're Misuda, you're going to travel with Vitality to Beijing, the major. Thought example right here, and you're getting told that you'll play on this map, and turns out that you're vetoing that map like Astralis did for you, for example.
Dude, that's brutal. Imagine that. Imagine being stood behind the PC. So, fucking hell, I'm in my first major final. This is sick. Like,
exactly.
But and the vetoes come up, just 2. Why?
But you saw that with Bubsky, right?
True.
They vetoed Nuke. Every time they had the chance to pick Nuke as a third map, they just like, nah, fuck it, we're not going to play it. So having that LAN event, that's not going to be sustainable. I don't see a way that's going to work. So I'm not buying into the project just yet at all.